Stacey J.
And I'm Chuck Duran.
Welcome to an awesome new episode of VO Buzz Weekly.
Absolutely. On the show today, we have Chris Fries. And let me tell you something. I tell people all the time, if you do the right stuff in the right sequence,
repeatedly,
and you repeat it over and over again, you will have tremendous success.
Yes.
And Chris is going to prove that to us today.
Yeah, he's got a great story.
Absolutely.
And we love him. He's a cool guy. So let's talk to him right now. Our guest is taking the voiceover world by storm. You guys hear him all the time in promos, commercials, in-show narration on Nat Geo, the Travel Channel. He is all over the place. He is totally awesome, and his story is even better than that. So we want to get buzzed right now with the totally cool Chris Fries.
Put it there, baby.
Thank you.
How are you? Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Now, a lot
much.
of people don't know this, but Chris is actually my son.
That's right. It's like a soap opera.
Kind of like a soap opera,
This
right?
just in.
Yeah, what happened was a long time ago. No, just kidding. But, buddy, I'm so happy. We're both so happy that you're here.
Yes.
It's been a long time coming, and we're so excited. You drove quite a few hours to come up here, right? Some miles.
Yeah. I mean, I live in Orange County, which is about 50 miles south.
Depending on the traffic,
that's
it could be
cool.
a
Yeah.
3-hour event.
And I don't say that to, make you seem like you're so cool or anything like that. But the cool thing is that he drove here not for us, but for you guys. And that's what's really cool about the whole thing. So thank you for doing that. They appreciate it. We appreciate it. And what do you say we get right into this little interview here and ask you some questions, right? We're going to get down
Fire
and
away.
dirty, baby.
Yeah.
Chris Fries, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so from Chicago, then you ended up in jail.
Yeah.
You'll define that. From Chicago, then you ended up in jail and into voiceover. Explain.
Okay. Well, I was born in Chicago but raised out here. And as far as my start in voiceover, it's not totally unlike a lot of other people's where I wanted to get into radio. And in the early 90s, coming out of college, I had got a job at a radio station, 95.9 KEZY in Orange County. Now they're out of business. It's
I
near,
remember KZY.
Yeah, near Disneyland area. And I wanted to be an on-air personality. That was my thing. And I first learned that voiceover was an actual thing at that point. Other on-air talent were talking about that. And I honestly, I'm like, really? Well, I guess cartoons, I figured, okay, that's, voiceover guys or something. But otherwise, I thought commercials, narration, that's like the director's brother or something does that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I didn't even know that was a job, but apparently it is. So it just kind of planted the seed. But the prize for me was to get into radio. So it was like, okay, I'm not really interested in that. But little time went by, I'm working at the radio station, and it gets sold, and everybody loses their job. A common thing in radio, you got to kind of be a nomad. So I was thinking, well, what do I do now? And to complicate matters even further, I had started dating a girl who was...
that always complicates things. Yeah. Date girls. No, I'm just kidding.
And she was an intern at the radio station as well. And it was about 2-3 months in. It was one of those where it's too soon to say, hey, come and follow me into the radio world and find ourselves in Little Rock, Arkansas or something.
Yeah.
But it was enough into it where I'm like, I kind of want to stick around and see where this thing goes.
Yeah.
So there wasn't anything open in radio in the area at the time, so I got a part-time job working in Parks and Recreation, doing organizing softball leagues and basketball leagues and things like that for adults and that. And the part-time job got a promotion, turned into full-time, got another promotion, and this little temporary job that was just going to bide my time until something in radio opened up, turned into a career. And 10 years I'm in Parks and Recreation.
Wow.
I become the Ron Swanson of this field, and I ended up getting to a director position. And as I'm working in this field, more and more of this career is all of a sudden not becoming very fun. The politics, the bureaucracy, the corruption. I mean, it was really a cliche when you're talking about government. And I was hating my job, and I was driving into work one day, and I'm listening to K-Rock, a morning radio show, Kevin and Bean in the morning.
Yep.
And there's a guy, Ralph Garman, one of the guys in the morning crew. He does voiceover, I guess, animation stuff on the side or whatever. And I was listening to him tell about an experience he had, and I was all of a sudden just riveted to what he had to say. And I'm like, wow, tell me more. And he's telling me about his experience, the session, all that. I was just mesmerized, and it was just this huge light just went off in me. And I said, I have to do this. This is what and I remembered 10 years earlier when they first planted the seed that, voiceover, sure, you know. And just coincidentally, about 2 months later, I get laid off, the economy and whatever, from my Parks and Rec job. And I was thinking, this is an omen. I had actually emailed Ralph and asked him, how do you get into voiceover? You know, the age-old question that people ask. And he told about classes and that. So he kind of gave me a couple of pointers as far as what to do. So I did them. And that's kind of how I got started. And then, of course, I'm sure you have other questions that can get branch from there.
Questions, man. You did good there.
You just keep talking.
But I could, but
we want you to. This is about you. I'm not going to talk.
Yeah.
I got nothing to say.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so I kind of started from there, and he had recommended a Susan Blue class.
Yeah.
And the late, great Cynthia Sanjay had taught that.
Yes.
And wonderful woman.
She is.
And it was a 6-week class, 3 weeks animation, 3 weeks commercial, and I fell in love with the whole idea of voiceover at that point. And I'm, of course, like anything, when you're starting a career, you don't start at the top. you start at the bottom. Yeah. And so I did pay-to-play sites, those types of things, and made a demo too soon. But fortunately, it wasn't a horrible demo, and I was able to do a little bit of
generate
work.
some action.
Some stuff going on, but I ended up kind of meeting people in various areas of classes and seminars, conventions, those types of things. And I was actually working out my local gym 50 miles away in Orange County. Again, there's a circle of voiceover people in Hollywood and LA and stuff, but once you get outside, like in Orange County, there's not so much.
Not so much.
Right.
So I'm working out, and a guy's asking me, oh, so what do you do for a living? I'm like, well, I'm an aspiring voice actor. And he says, oh, I trained somebody who's pretty big in the industry. And I said, oh, that's great. And he said, well, next time he's in, I'll introduce you. Next time I come in, he say, hey, that guy that I was telling you about is here, I'll introduce you. And I'm like, oh, great. Chris, this is Scott Rummell. Scott Rummell, this is Chris. Now at the time, I didn't know who Scott Rummell was.
Right.
I was in the presence of voiceover greatness.
The clouds were parting outside the gym. You just didn't see them.
Yeah. And I'll tell you
Let's
what.
say hi to Scott.
Hi, Scott. We love you, Scott.
And he was so generous with his time, with his knowledge, with even his home, because I think that very day, he doesn't know me from Adam, but he invited me to his house to sit in on a session that he was doing. And then I'm like, of course, I'm listening to him work, and I'm like, oh, I know that voice.
Yeah.
We all know that voice.
Yeah.
And he gave me pointers and gave me some direction, and I followed it to the letter. And but it was a long time kind of coming, but that's kind of got me pushed and motivated.
What were some of the things that Scott told you to do?
Classes. Take classes. Take lots and lots of classes. Get exposure, marketing, networking, get to know people, and get good at your craft. And it's a matter of how luck is where opportunity meets preparation. And that's how I was going to create my luck. Not like lottery numbers kind of picking thing. I was going to control this luck. So I needed to get more prepared. So even though I had this demo made, and I think I made the demo, I didn't get it professionally done. I had typed out my name on the label, the CD. At the time, it was CDs were the way to go with demos. And I even had a kind of a legend on the back that said the gruff guy, friendly guy. I'm like, what am I doing? I did it all wrong. And he was telling me, he's like, this is great, Chris. But I tell you what, too, he could have totally laughed me out of his house. But he was like, no, this is good. This is good. But what you want to do is to try to create a brand and create a kind of what your sound is about and that kind of thing. So he set me straight on a lot of things. And and I owe him quite a bit. So thank you, Scott.
So now Chris Fries makes payments to Scott.
Yeah.
PayPal to Scott.
Now that you're making payments to Scott Rummell and he's all happy and stuff like that, but we know that he told you to do a bunch of stuff, and did you do some of it, all of it?
No, it was an all or none kind of a thing. I especially understanding the body of work that Scott has done, I would. There's no reason for me to make any shortcuts or leave anything out of what he would suggest. Right. And so I needed to kind of go all in. It was one of the things was you can't really have any meaningful success kind of going part-time at this. So I needed to pursue this 100% full time.
Mm-hmm.
So as I'd lost my job in Parks and Rec, so I had some savings, and my wife, who actually going back, the girl that I dated.
Yes, I was going to
Right.
ask you.
There you go.
So
See?
she believed in me from the start, and
beautiful.
and she was working full time as I was trying to make this a go. And so she's definitely the breadwinner, and I'm the bread eater at this point. But I'm all in, and so these early days, not much money's coming in, money's going out, and I needed to find another way to make some money as I'm doing this. But I didn't want to do something like a waiter or a bartender. I'd done the bartending thing in college and that because for two reasons. I wanted to. Bartenders and those types of jobs, they still could start at 4 or 5 in the afternoon and then go up until midnight or so. And I still wanted to spend time in the evening with my family and that, and also some voiceover stuff still kind of trickles into the afternoon.
Sure.
And especially if I'm in Orange County and I got to travel an hour, 2, 3 hours, depending on traffic, I'm not going to make my shift. So I needed to get a graveyard shift type of a job, and. So I was willing to do the.
You planted this out. This was a plan. You had a plan.
Yeah, and because there were several opportunities for me to say, give up. This isn't going to work. And I can't. I got to get a job. This isn't working. So voiceover was a good shot.
Wasn't meant to be.
Wasn't meant to be. Yeah. That was never entering my mind. There's several crossroads. This was one of them, and it said, okay, now I could give up, or I could look past this and try to make this work. And the graveyard shift job was going to make that work. And I was going to work as a gas station attendant, 7-Eleven, whatever, minimum wage, just enough to pay a little bit of the mortgage, a grocery bill or two, just to keep us afloat while I, still did the voiceover thing. And a buddy of mine, he works as a deputy sheriff for LA County Sheriffs. And he says, "Oh no, you don't have to do that. No. I got the perfect job for you.
I got the VIP position for you."
So he says, "Jailor."
Jailor.
That's where it's at. So I.
Okay, no. Okay, so seriously. Let's go back.
It sounds like a movie. Chris Fry's in The Jailor.
Yeah. So go back to that moment when he said jailor.
Yeah.
What went through your mind?
What'd you say?
Well, at first I was like, hell no.
What does that mean?
Yeah. But then he was like, no, it's actually a really good setup. You don't handle the inmates. You don't touch them at all. You work in a kind of a module and you push a bunch of buttons to open and close doors. And all the deputies that come out of the academy, they work in the jails first and then they go to patrol and whatever they do. The jailers in there are non-sworn positions that, push buttons and that's it. I'm done.
Right.
So I'm like, well, when you put it like that, I'm like, that's not a bad gig.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, the money is good, benefits are excellent, and you'll have no problem getting the graveyard. Nobody wants to do it.
Because nobody wants it.
What was the shift hours?
10 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Wow.
But it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, as my friend had described. I go through my own little academy, and then I get in there, and they had just gotten off of a hiring freeze, so they were short-handed, deputies and jailers. Yeah. So the not handling the inmates thing,
not so much,
in a perfect world, sure, but this is far from a perfect world. I'm handling frisking inmates. I'm breaking up fights. I'm tossing cells. I'm doing everything in there. Yeah. And not to mention, there's a situation where there was force used by deputies or jailers on an inmate that happened to be a gang leader, and so this whole sect of gang had greenlit the sheriffs and jailers in the jails, which means that when an opportunity presents itself, so you attack a jailer or a deputy. So now I'm working in a greenlit jail.
There's
and
no
I'm
benefits
handling.
that are good enough for that. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you get paid extra for that?
For green light? No.
No. Okay.
No.
Well, you're a good thing. What are you, like 6'4"?
6'6".
Yeah. So
6'6".
at least you had that on your side.
That does help.
Yeah.
That does help. So yeah, I'm having to kind of deal with this.
Wow.
And then to make matters worse, could they be?
As they could get it. Yeah.
I'm working the graveyard shift. Everything's working perfectly. I'm there at 10. I'm off at 6. I get home at 7. I can, my daughter. We didn't have our son at the time, but I help my daughter get up ready for school. I kiss them to school and work. And at night, I can have dinner with them. I watch a little trash TV with my wife, and then I head off to work for, it's actually a perfect setup.
Yeah.
But then, because of the hiring freeze they had, they were shorthanded, so they didn't have all their shifts to be able to fill. And it's not like you're working at a Home Depot where, we're just short a couple of people. Jail, you have to have a fully staffed, all the shifts covered.
Yeah.
So they take volunteers for overtime to cover shifts. And but I wasn't interested in the overtime. That wasn't my thing. I'm not looking to make it rich as a jailer.
You don't want to make a career out of this, right?
No.
Okay, like you did the previous.
Yeah,
Gosh,
right.
yeah.
So because the setup was good, I'd get a couple hours of sleep in the morning, and then I'd be able to do voiceover stuff during the day, and then with the family, and then go back to work. But when they couldn't fill all of the shifts with volunteers, they had to do what they call a draft, which is mandatory. You're working overtime, and it wasn't just work an hour or two until Bob gets off of lunch. You're working another 8-hour shift back to back.
Whoa!
So I'd work 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. and then 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. and then I'd go home. And would I get, well, wait a minute, now I'm way behind on my auditions.
Totally.
Right.
If I got a session, I'm like, well, I can't book the session because of, I'd miss a session.
How's the sound quality in the jailer room there? Could you do
Yeah,
an
right.
ISDN there? No, probably not.
Little echo.
Little
to it. But yeah, so this is and this is happening like 3-4 times a week where I'm getting drafted.
Yeah.
And they draft you, you'd get a phone call in your module in the last 15 minutes of your shift. To let you know that you just got drafted. And man, time is like standing still in that last 15 minutes.
Waiting
like,
for,
am I
how
getting
long
the
did
call?
this go on, this whole drafting process?
Well, until I decided I wasn't going to be drafted anymore.
Okay, there you go.
You had to stand up.
They said, you're drafted. I said, I don't think
Not so
but
much, no.
thanks. Now, you can imagine this was not accepted very with open arms with the jail. Now, I can't blame them at all. They have to cover their shifts and stuff.
Sure.
Right.
This was not what I had signed up for,
Right.
and so neither was it me telling them that I'm a voiceover actor that has to kind of keep his days free.
Yeah.
They weren't
Yeah.
really understanding that.
Yeah.
I kind of kept all that to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I knew it was the beginning of the end at that point. They were going to have to let me go, and they did. So, and it just so happened that I was able to, within a few months of getting fired as a jailer, I was there for about a year. I was able to slowly but surely pick up a little momentum with voiceover. So I didn't have to go from the jailer to 7-Eleven, and
Right.
Yeah.
unfortunately that kind of.
That's
That-
cool, man.
Oh my gosh.
Wow, that's nuts, dude.
It is.
I mean, that is
I have
nuts.
to say that you're the first jailer guest we've had.
All right.
Absolutely.
No
And recreation.
Parks and Rec.
Yeah. Parks and Rec.
You. I feel like we should give you
Yeah.
something for this.
Yeah.
This is a
Oh,
big
and the
deal.
stories I could tell you about the jail, that'd be a whole other show.
Oh, gosh. We
And
might have
probably
to
a-
hear at least one of them.
That's on the DVD extra
Yeah.
feature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the uncensored.
The unreleased DVD.
Oh my gosh, I could listen to your jailer stories all day, but we need to move on.
Yes, we're gonna move on.
So early on, did you have any setbacks or any maybe missteps that, when you think about them now, were really valuable lessons or maybe blessings in disguise?
Yeah, lots.
Yeah.
I kind of liken a voiceover career to a mouse finding a piece of cheese in a maze. You know, the goal is to get that cheese. A voiceover career is to achieve, you know, some kind of success. But in order to get from A to B, it's not a straight line. It's sometimes I'll make a right and then I'll lose some ground and then I'll hit a roadblock or something where but eventually I make progress and I get there. So lots of mistakes. So one of those, if I could go back and do it again, would I do it differently? Well, yeah, probably, just to save a couple of years off of off the journey. But some of the things I made my demo too soon. I mentioned, as a matter of fact, right after I took the 6-week class with Cynthia, I had her make my demo. I had one 6-week class, 3 weeks animation, 3 weeks commercial, and I made a demo. And it wasn't the worst thing, it wasn't the best thing, it was just middle of the road. But the good thing is I kept working on honing my craft. I kept improving myself, putting myself in a position to get better. And through some of my meetings, I met a gentleman by the name of Chuck Duran.
I hear he's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
Sounds familiar.
I'd like to meet him someday.
Does he do demos? I think?
He does,
Maybe?
and they rock.
And they
But so I meet you, Chuck, and this is years. This must have been 9 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, man.
And you fixed up my commercial demo. And since then, you've done my promo demo, you've done narration demo, for imaging, affiliate.
And you've been kicking butt. You've been kicking some butt, man.
Yeah.
I love that you send me little updates, you know, here once in a while, like, hey man, check this out. I just finished, you know, I'm the voice of this now. And I'm like, right on, man.
Yeah.
Well, I knew you would appreciate it
Heck
for sure. You know, certain people, especially coming up, that were big supporters in my corner kind of thing. I definitely like to kind of keep you up to date.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that, and keep them coming because I really like those. What are a few little things that you can tell people out there that are in the trenches right now? Maybe they're where you were, you know, 5 years ago, right? Okay. Maybe they're making a lot of wrong decisions or decisions that are maybe costing them a lot of time. What are a few things that you could maybe tell them that could help them and maybe put them in a right direction to save a little time and get to the cheese, if you will, a little quicker?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the education part is big, and the marketing and network is really huge too. This is a who you know kind of world we're living in. A voiceover, like many other businesses, the same thing. And you can't really do it alone. You have to get out there. You have to meet people. And you have to make sure that you become known, because you can be the best voice actor in the world, but if nobody knows you, it doesn't matter. So you got to get out there. And again, I'm 50 miles away. It's hard to get into town. Coming in for classes, coming in for conferences and meets and networking events and things like that.
So you're driving 50 miles.
100 miles round trip,
100 miles almost every day to do
just about. And it was, and you know, I mean, you wouldn't think it talking to me now, but I'm kind of an introvert, really. Sometimes it's tough for me to just kind of put myself out there. So it's, you know, I wasn't totally comfortable, but I knew it was important. So taking the classes, another thing I always look for whenever I take a class, I try to find out, would there be a guest director at the end of this class? Sometimes at the end of a class, they'd have like a casting director or an agent or something at the end. So it wasn't so much, I mean, it was definitely the education, but it was also an opportunity. Can I showcase a little bit? Can I show off? Can I impress? And maybe this person would remember me or something like that. So developing these relationships was paramount, and maintaining them. So if you feel like you can kind of do it in the background there, and you can't, you got to get out there. You can't just do it from behind your computer. You gotta get out there and meet people. So that was important, and just that refusal to say no, the refusal to go away. Was big. I knew this is what I wanted to do, and as these crossroads come to me, there's excuses that I could make as to give up or continue on, but I knew that if I kept at it, you know, I said something would happen, and things did start to happen.
Yeah, you plant enough seeds, they're
absolutely
gonna grow at some point.
What do you think? What are some of the things that you feel that you would do differently today if you were starting your voiceover business today?
Yeah, well, I'd probably not make that first demo so fast.
Okay, good. So don't make your demo before it's time.
Right.
Yeah, and I would have continued to market and network even more aggressively than I did, because I noticed the more I did that, the more good things happened, and not just from meeting a casting director or a producer or a talent agent, but your fellow voice actor, your other your other actors. I had great referrals to some regional agents, some other opportunities, some place to get a Sennheiser at a discount or something like that. Things like that where you get tips where you wouldn't otherwise know that you found out about, and you meet people, and these people can do you favors, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
If you're a nice guy.
Well, I was going to say, in general, the voiceover community is so generous
They really
and
are.
welcoming, and everyone likes to try to help each other out, which is lovely. But you have to take that step and put yourself in the position to be
Absolutely.
a part of it.
Yeah. So when do you feel was that first? Am I asking too many questions?
No.
When did you feel was that point where you sat down at home and maybe just were thinking to yourself and thought to yourself, "Wow, this is happening. I'm actually doing it."
I think it was my first break, kind of a thing. And I was starting to get a little momentum after the jailor job, but nothing to write home about. As a matter of fact, I don't think to the point of my break, did I ever hear myself on the radio or TV. I had booked a couple of jobs, but they might have been in different regions, or I just didn't happen to hear them or see them.
Right.
But I'd booked a Minute Maid commercial. And I didn't even know if it was radio or TV. I didn't care. I'm like, does it pay? That was the important thing.
I can keep this money?
I need the money.
So I'm doing this commercial, and great. Okay, thanks, great. And I left. A couple of weeks later, I get a call from a friend of mine. I'm watching TV at night, and he says, "Did you do a Minute Maid commercial?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." He goes, "It's on American Idol," and this is in 2008. And at the time, American Idol was huge.
It's still huge. I
It's
don't
still
know what
pretty
people
big,
are
yeah.
talking about.
But and the funny thing was, I told him, "I'm watching American Idol right
you
now."
miss it.
I fast forward through all the commercials. That's probably why I miss it. So I rewind. I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" And I tell you what, in my professional career, I don't think I've had a single more proud and happy moment than seeing that.
So cool.
And
So
then
great.
that summer, the Beijing Olympics, and it was playing prime time during the Olympics
Wow.
as well.
Yeah.
And that played for almost a year.
And then you went to the mailbox
It
and you
played
went,
for a
"Thank you."
year?
Yeah.
You
Wow.
made a killing.
I didn't realize how good residuals could be until I'm like, wow, so you're gonna still pay me?
Yeah.
And I don't
And
have to
after
do
the
anything
fact,
more?
yeah.
We love that passive income.
Yeah.
Oh my
That is
goodness gracious.
delicious.
So that one was, that was kind of the big break there, and it's one of those where work begets work, and my opportunities started to kind of flow in there. As a matter of fact, I think my second video game opportunity I had was I booked Call of Duty World at War. And
Oh,
Call of Duty,
nice.
one of the biggest
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
video game franchises,
Yeah.
and it was I was third billing underneath Gary Oldman, Kiefer Sutherland, and then me. And I'm like, what? How is that possible that I am like in the same breath as those two?
Because you're the jailer.
That's true. You
Came
got,
in handy.
you got the jailer experience.
Came in handy with
I'm
the video.
sure.
Absolutely.
You were
A little bit
channeling.
more aggression, no problem.
No
Yeah.
problem. You need that amped up? I got
I'll just pretend I'm on my second shift. Okay, so you never even thought about getting into video games or anything like that. So you didn't even know that was a possibility or that it even existed, probably.
Yeah, no, it was, that was another thing about the relationships where the relationship with your agent is so important that there were things that I didn't know I could do or be good at.
Yeah.
But my agent said, you might be pretty good at video games. You kind of have a resonance in your voice, and, whatever.
You look like a bad guy,
So
You got the eyes and the
the
height.
I have a face for voiceover.
Yeah.
But yeah, so these opportunities come their way, and doing Call of Duty and other games that were Army or Monsters or Heroes or whatever seemed to come a little more naturally to me, and And I think it had a lot to do, more so to do with the jailor job than I thought, because
You were channeling the after hours.
Yes.
The what's it called? The
draft.
The draft.
Yeah.
the draft, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had, when you get a row of fish that come in, and fish are new inmates, and you,
Oh
you
my
gotta
God.
assign-
Really? Oh,
Not to be
boy.
mistaken with sushi.
Yeah, no. Although they sometimes smell just as bad.
Oh my gosh.
But so you got a row of these hardened killers and and you got to get their attention and direct them into their cells and whatever. And the first time I did that, I was like, okay, guys, if you could go over here and do that. It's
And
not
they're like-
really, grasping their attention so
yeah.
much. So you
You're
got
not
really,
doing the flight instructions on the
yeah,
plane,
exactly.
Chris.
Yeah. Well, I thought if I'm nice to them, they'll be nice
well,
to me.
treat them like human beings. Yes, they're human beings.
Yeah, absolutely. But they just don't respond to that.
Yeah.
So you got to use the big boy voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got to talk their language, if you know what I mean.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
And so it would things that my mother wouldn't want to hear, but it got the
Yeah.
job done. And in some of these video games,
You got to say those things.
you got to say it and get paid for it.
And get paid for it. Wow.
So I was able to really jump into the video game world and say, bring it.
Yeah.
See, I love
That's
it when
so
your
cool.
life experience, you bring it to your work. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, speaking of your work, let's talk about some of the current projects that you can talk about. You've got a new series on Nat Geo, which is kind of cool that you're doing in-show narration on.
Yeah, Dead End Express. It's people living off the grid kind of a thing.
Yeah.
This is
It's
popular.
really cool.
Yeah, doing that. And just on CBS, The Briefcase is a show that I'm working on now. And of course, commercials and that. Ace Hardware has been going strong for a few years. I just finished doing Hyundai. They had a big camp. That was another one, too, where I was, for a long time, several years, Jeff Bridges was doing the voice of Hyundai. And back in, I think it was 2009, he won Best Actor for Crazy Heart, and he was just starting the Hyundai campaign, and he was doing his victory tour of the Academy Award, and they needed somebody to do some of his spots because he wasn't available, and so they were auditioning people, and I didn't think I sounded at all like Jeff Bridges. Well, apparently my agent thought so too.
Yeah.
And especially, it's like, it's kind of working on it and listening to some of his stuff. And when I kind of harken back and talk a little more back here and get a little more easy.
That's good. Yeah.
Very good.
This Jeff Bridges guy tends to come out a little bit. So talking about the Hyundai Genesis or whatever. And
That,
Totally.
Oh, man. Yeah. I
Yes.
can totally picture that now.
Yeah, so
you actually did stuff that he was supposed to do.
Yeah, he wasn't available.
yeah.
And you got it because you sound kind of like him, and they
Sound
actually
kinda like
tricked
him.
people.
Yeah, well, I mean, they didn't go for literally this is a voice replacement. Although from that, I did replace, do a lot of ADR
Yeah.
for Jeff, and still do to this day. Me and Jeff are
Great.
like this.
Yeah.
He probably sees you out in the street. And he's
Yeah,
like, "Oh,
yeah.
so you're the guy."
And you look
I'm
so
the
much alike,
dude.
so
Yeah.
it's very easy to mix you up.
The dude abides. The dude abides.
That's very cool.
Oh,
That's
man.
very cool.
Yeah, but no, lots of little projects. Most of my stuff is commercial, but promo has stepped up a lot lately. I think my first big promo job was Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And that one was, it's kind of funny, the audition specs wanted a Nick Offerman type from Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
And he's kind of got that irreverent, I don't
that
care
one.
He's
about
got the Parks and
anything.
Rec experience too.
Yeah. So I said, I could do that. But Nick, he's kind of got this, he doesn't really care about anything. He's kind of got this blasé type of thing. So the original Brooklyn Nine-Nine was kind of like this, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, tonight on Fox. Well, I booked the session, and then they tweak in the actual session, they tweaked it, and it kind of got away from Nick Offerman and turned more into a dragnet, like, just the facts, ma'am, so I'm talking more like this. So Brooklyn Nine-Nine, tonight on Fox. So that's what it ended up turning into, but
Wow.
it started with something else, and that was something, too, that was important skill to realize is taking direction.
Yes.
And to be able to change on the fly. I could have said, hold on, you asked for a Nick Offerman type,
Right.
we're not talking Nick Offerman-like anymore.
Yeah.
No, you got to adjust.
Yeah,
and,
you have
Yeah.
to.
And
Yeah.
if you can do that, you can work more. And
That's great, man.
but yeah, that and of course, you have a promo job as long as the show's on the air.
Yes.
And when the show first came out, I was hoping, it was kind of, I don't know if you're familiar, it was kind of a
I remember the show.
Yeah.
Police Academy.
Yeah.
It's still on now,
Yeah.
type of a thing with Adam Sandler, and it got good reviews, and then it started getting Emmy nominations and Golden Globe nominations. I'm like, oh wow, this is unbelievable.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So that was one of my first promo campaigns, and that parlays into some other stuff I've done for Fox with basketball, football, a lot of the different genres.
Yeah,
there.
I remember you sending me links to some of
Yeah.
your sports stuff, and I was like, get down.
Yeah.
Chris is tearing it up.
And the nice thing on that was, again, with the relationships, when if you work well with somebody, you give them what they want, you're pleasant to work with, then, hey, they may, throw you a bone and either get you repeat work or refer you to another producer.
Yep.
And then, you keep working from there. So.
Absolutely, and that's how that works. That's
Yeah.
the networking part of it.
Oh, yeah.
Meeting new people and being nice because
Yeah.
they'll be nice to you. See,
Yes.
it works. It does work. The nice guy does win. All right, he's the proof. So cool, man.
So let's talk about a little bit of your audition process. So you're doing it mostly from home?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So what's kind of because you work in so many different areas, as far as do you have any tips or any thoughts about when you have to self-direct? Do you feel that you're good at it? Do you get in your, what are your strengths and what are the things that kind of trip you up sometimes?
I guess I'm okay at it because I'm booking, I
Right.
guess.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so that helps.
Yeah.
But it is kind of like, flying blind sometimes. Am I doing the right things? Am I? So I still train to this day. I work with Joyce Castellanos. I've worked with Maurice Tobias, Jody Gottlieb, a lot of host of people,
Yeah.
Huck Liggett, and when he was still working at the Voicecaster. And so I keep myself sharp because I don't want to develop bad habits or fall into ruts, or because again, it's difficult to assess yourself when you're just hearing yourself all the time. Everything
Right,
starts to sound the same in that. But one tip that I found kind of useful is after I would do an audition, if I didn't have to submit it right away, I would walk away, and then I would come back and an hour, a day later, even if I could, and then you listen to it with a completely objective, different perspective and different set of ears, and I'll listen. I'm like, oh no, that's not right at all. And then I'll go back and I'll be able to do it differently. And and then also in the auditions, I'll ABC a lot of stuff, taglines, buttons and little things that I can kind of select. And so I might have this puzzle at the end of an audition.
Right, and then you put it all together.
And then I'll assemble it, and then I'm like, oh, that's a nice sounding.
Kind of like they do it for real.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we have for part one. But wait, there's more, and that will be
there
next
is.
week.
There is, and keep up with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. And hey, we're on Instagram too. Woohoo!
Yeah.
We love you guys. Thanks so much for watching. And just remember, you always have time for a little buzz.